On September 5, 1990, a 56-year-old woman named Marlys Sather left her office during her lunch break and drove home to her house in Palm Bay, Florida. What she walked into was her next-door neighbor burglarizing her home. He beat her, bound her, attempted to strangle her, poured gasoline over her, and set the house on fire, with her still inside. The autopsy confirmed she was alive when the fire was lit. She died from smoke inhalation. Her neighbor's name was Chadwick Scott Willacy. He was 22 years old. And on April 21, 2026, 35 years later, the state of Florida executed him for it. This is the full story. Chadwick Scott Willacy has just been executed in Florida for the crime he committed in 1990, when he was 22 years old. The burning alive of his 56-year-old next-door neighbor on the 5th of September 1990. Before that afternoon, Willacy was a young man living in a modest neighborhood in Palm Bay, Florida, on a street called Jarvis Street, NW. He had no significant criminal history, just a handful of minor drug-related offenses in both New York and Florida. Nothing that would have raised any alarm to the people living around him. He lived directly next door to Marlys Sather. According to investigators, the two had a prior dispute over money, a disagreement about payment for Willacy cutting her lawn. That tension in the background, minor as it may have seemed at the time, would later be identified as the lead-up to what happened that Wednesday afternoon. On the day of the murder, court records indicate that Willacy was under the influence of cocaine. He had no history of serious violence. He was not someone his neighbors would have feared. He was just a young man next door, until the afternoon he decided to break into the house beside his. On the morning of September 5, 1990, while Marla Sather was at work at Harris Corporation, Chadwick Willacy broke into her home next door. When Marlys returned home during her lunch break, she found him inside. And the moment Willacy saw her, he knew he would be identified as the burglar. Willacy immediately struck her multiple times in the head before she could say anything with a hammer and a squeegee, fracturing her skull. The attack was ferocious, the kind of violence that speaks to pure panic, or pure rage, or both. But he wasn't done. He then bound her hands and ankles with wire and tape. She was on the floor of her own home, bleeding from her head, unable to move, unable to run, unable to call for help. Still, he wasn't done. Willacy attempted to strangle Sather with a telephone cord, and when that didn't work, he moved on to something worse. He then took her car, with a for sale sign still in the window, and drove to a nearby ATM machine and withdrew $200 with her debit card. Surveillance footage captured a person matching his description at the ATM around the time of the murder. After that, he returned to the house. Back inside, he poured gasoline over Marlys, removed the smoke detectors from the walls, placed a fan near her feet to supply airflow to the fire, and set the house alight. He then stole her car along with other items from the home and drove away, abandoning the car approximately 2 blocks from the crime scene. The autopsy later confirmed that Marla Sather died from smoke inhalation. She was still alive when the fire was set. She was conscious, or at least breathing, when that fire reached her. Marlys Mae Sather was born in Minnesota in May of 1934. She married her husband Rayland, known to family and friends as Dick, in 1953. For many years she was a stay-at-home mother, raising 2 daughters and a son. Later in life, she went back to school. She earned her bachelor's degree from Western Illinois University at the age of 45, studying at night while working full-time. She later went on to earn a master's degree as well. By 1985, she and Dick had relocated from Davenport, Iowa to Palm Bay, Florida, where she had secured a position as a government contracts negotiator at Harris Corporation. In Palm Bay, Marlys was a consistent presence in her community. She sang in the choir at First United Methodist Church in Melbourne. She was a member of the Sierra Club and the American Association of University Women, and was active in her neighborhood homeowners association. She had 3 children and 3 granddaughters. Her husband Dick passed away from liver cancer in July of 1990, just 2 months before her murder. She had been living alone in the house on Jarvis Street when Willacy broke in. When Marlys did not return from her lunch break that afternoon, her employer contacted her family. Her son-in-law, Denning Loveridge, went to check on her on September 6th and found her body in one of the bedrooms. Her daughter Diana, who still lives in Melbourne today, spent the next 35 years watching this case work its way through the courts. Detective George Santiago led the investigation into Marlys Sather's death. When authorities arrived at the scene, they found the back door open, items of value left out on the porch, and Marlys' car missing. The car was located the following day, abandoned about 2 blocks from the crime scene. The case broke open when Willacy's then-girlfriend, Marissa Walcott, contacted police. Her father had discovered Marlys' checkbook in a trash can inside the bedroom of the home they shared with Willacy. That tip led investigators directly to him. The physical evidence against Willacy was extensive. His fingerprints were found on the gas can and on the fan that had been placed near Marlys' feet. A bloody fingerprint recovered at the scene also matched him. Marlys' check register was found in a trash can at his residence. Her jewelry and coins were recovered from his bedroom. Witnesses confirmed they had seen him driving her car on the day of the murder. Surveillance photos taken at an ATM showed Willacy attempting to make withdrawals, with Marlys' stolen car visible in the background. When detectives brought Willacy in for questioning, he initially denied any involvement. When Willacy was questioned the next day, when told that neighbors said he had been seen arguing with Sather, Willacy said, "Damn neighbors, it's none of their business," and denied the charges. When confronted with the evidence, his account changed. He admitted to being in the house on September 5th but claimed someone else had committed the murder. Investigators looked into the alleged accomplice and cleared him quickly. He had been at work elsewhere at the time. Willacy was charged with first-degree premeditated murder, burglary with assault, robbery with a weapon, and arson in the first degree. The trial took place in October 1991. The jury found 5 aggravating factors. The murder was committed during the commission of arson, for financial gain, to avoid arrest, in a manner that was especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel, and that it was cold, calculated, and premeditated. On October 19, 1991, Willacy was convicted on all counts. The jury voted 9-3 in favor of death. On December 10, 1991, Circuit Judge Theron Yon formally imposed the death sentence. In 1994, the Florida Supreme Court ordered a new sentencing hearing, not because the conviction was in question, but because the trial judge had failed to give defense attorneys the opportunity to question a juror who had stated she could not support the death penalty. A procedural error in the original sentencing. The new sentencing was held in 1995. The new jury recommended death by a vote of 11-1. The Florida Supreme Court upheld that sentence in 1997. Federal habeas proceedings followed over the next several years, with a federal habeas petition denied in 2014. Further appeals were filed and denied in the years that followed. Following his sentencing, Chadwick Scott Willacy was held at Union Correctional Institution in Rayford, Florida, where he spent the next 34 years on death row. Inside prison, he went by the name Khalil. In early March 2026, Willacy's legal counsel filed public records requests in circuit court seeking information about Florida's lethal injection protocol, citing concerns that had emerged from other recent executions in the state. Those requests went unanswered. 1 week later, on March 13, 2026, Governor DeSantis signed Willacy's death warrant. The execution was set for April 21, 2026, at 6 p.m. at Florida State Prison near Stark, Florida. His attorneys filed appeals with the Florida Supreme Court, arguing against the execution on the basis of the lethal injection concerns and questioning whether the death warrant had been signed in direct response to the public records request. The Florida Supreme Court denied those motions. His legal team then filed a final application for a stay with the U.S. Supreme Court in the days leading up to the scheduled execution date. Several hours before the execution, the U.S. Supreme Court denied that application as well. Advocacy groups also filed petitions asking Governor DeSantis to grant a stay of execution and consider commuting the sentence to life without parole, citing Willacy's background and the argument that execution was not necessary for public safety. Those petitions did not result in a stay. On the morning of April 21, 2026, Chadwick Scott Willacy woke up at 5 a.m. at Florida State Prison. He received visits from his mother, 2 sisters, and a cousin throughout the day. He did not meet with a spiritual advisor. He had his last meal, which was chicken, tater tots, rice, beans, ice cream, pie, and milk. He remained compliant as the hours passed. By 6 p.m., it was time. At the scheduled 6 p.m. execution time, the curtain to the death chamber went up promptly. The lethal injection began 2 minutes later, after Willacy made a brief final statement. In that statement, he apologized to his family and friends. He urged his fellow death row inmates, the people he referred to as his brothers on the death row, to stay strong. And then he said something that will sit differently depending on who is listening. He maintained his innocence, saying he would never kill his friend, referring to Marlys Sather. And to the victim's family, he said, "I hope this brings you peace. If it does, that's good." Those were his final words. Shortly after the lethal injection got underway, a warden shook Willacy and called his name. There was no response. His skin began to turn gray. A medic entered the chamber to examine him. Chadwick Scott Willacy was pronounced dead at 6:15 p.m. It was Florida's 5th execution of 2026. Willacy was 58 years old. He had spent 35 years on death row for what he did to Marlys Sather on September 5, 1990. Florida's death row still holds nearly 250 inmates. The state is not slowing down. Governor DeSantis has signed 7 death warrants in 2026 alone, following a modern-era record of 19 in 2025. The next execution already scheduled is that of James Ernest Hitchcock, set for April 30th. 2026. For the family of Marla Satter, April 21, 2026 marked the end of a 35-year wait. A wait that began when her son-in-law found her body in that smoke-damaged bedroom on Jarvis Street, and stretched through decades of trials, appeals, sentencing hearings, and court filings. Willacy went to his death, maintaining he did not commit the murder. A claim that stood in direct contrast to the fingerprints on the gas can, the bloody print at the scene, the stolen items recovered from his bedroom, the ATM footage, and the testimony of multiple witnesses. The courts, across multiple levels and across 3.5 decades, consistently found the evidence against him to be conclusive. Marlys Mae Sather was 56 years old when she was killed in her own home in 1990. She was living alone when her neighbor broke into her house on a Wednesday afternoon. Chadwick Scott Willacy was 22 years old when he committed that crime. He was 58 years old when the state of Florida carried out his execution, 35 years after it happened. If this story is one you feel deserves to be heard, share it. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And subscribe for more stories told the way they deserve to be told. If you're a lover of creepy true crime stories, true crime documentaries, horror crime, unsolved mysteries, and the rest, you can do well to check out our twin channel Mysterious Dark Files for more videos like that.